Joining us now, we've got three of the top radio talk show hosts in the country's Lars Larson from Portland, Oregon, Kevin Miller from Pittsburgh, and CNN contributor and Chicago radio talk show host, our very own Roland Martin. Welcome to all you guys. Appreciate your time tonight.
Glad to be here.
Kevin, let me start with you. To say that this speech touched a nerve is an understatement. And you say that you've been seeing reactions split along racial lines and along class lines. What kind of things have you been hearing from people?
Well, Campbell, I've been doing this for about 20 years, and I'll tell you the lines at KDK have never been fuller, and that's including impeachment and everything else. Basically, you have African-American or black colors saying what Reverend Wright was saying was correct. It happens in black churches, and there needs to be more dialogue. You have white people saying they thought they would consider Obama, and they say at KDK, it's done. The fact that Obama has not come and really addressed us, he spent most of his time in Philadelphia, adds to the resentment here.
Go ahead. Roland, sorry.
Say it again?
Could you hear what he said, Roland?
Yeah, I heard what he said. I'm not surprised by that, because when you have the intersection of race, faith, and politics, you get a different viewpoint. And I think, as Obama talked about in his speech, it speaks to how we view things differently. And so we see this all across the country. I mean, I get callers who say same thing that Kevin just said. I think what you have here is this is where the point, in terms of what we're able to do, in terms of being able to try to move people to a different level in the conversation. And that is, how do people see the world differently? The Kerner Commission talked about it in 1968. We're talking about it in 2008, how different people, black, white, view the same thing from a different lens through a different prism.
Lars?
And should we all be looking at it differently because people see it differently? I suppose you could say that bigots see things differently. I mean, there are all kinds of different points of view, but we don't honor them. In this case, Barack Obama is trying to explain to the American public that it was legitimate for him to sit there and absorb these points of view, never having the guts to stand up and tell his pastor, you're wrong to say these evil things about America. And then after he had included the pastor as his mentor, as the inspiration for his book, and putting him on his presidential campaign as spiritual advisor, the minute people said, hey, what was your pastor saying? He says, well, I'll kick him to the curb. His views are now inconvenient. Barack Obama's got a lot more explaining to do.
You know, Campbell, and this what you just heard is precisely the point there. I doubt very seriously Lawrence has probably even heard one full sermon. And I'll give you an example. Today, I actually wanted to hear the 9/11 sermon. I wanted to hear what he said. And in fact, what was interesting, when he talked about that whole point about chickens coming home to roost, he was actually quoting Ambassador Edward Peck, who in an interview on Fox News talking about American foreign policy. I listened to the entire sermon. He talked about in that particular sermon that we're going to have to deal with people who do not have militaries, but have people out in the world who want to be able to send folks and blow up the United States. And that's what he talked about. So as opposed to coming on television and going on radio and only taking a snippet and then all of a sudden expounding on it, I chose to do what journalists should do and talk show hosts do, and actually listen to the entire sermon for the context. Lars, I'll be happy to send you a copy so you can have an actual perspective
Roland,
that is true and factual.
I don't need to, Ms. Brown, I don't need to hear the whole sermon in the same way.
No, you don't?
Barack Obama didn't.
You don't want to hear the whole sermon?
No,
okay, Roland,
stop
come
for
on,
a moment,
let him make his point.
Barack Obama didn't need to hear all of what Don Imus had said over the years to know that saying what Don Imus said on the air, according to Barack Obama, was unacceptable. And yet, somehow, Barack Obama found the comments, stupid comments of Don Imus, to be unacceptable, but the comments of his pastor apparently to be acceptable for 20 years until people actually realized what this man had been listening to in church.
And you hadn't heard one sermon.
You don't need to hear the whole sermon.
Let me play something else and get you guys to react to it, because a lot of this conversation, you get the sense that we're all hearing different things in terms of our interpretation of language. Listen to this soundbite. This is Obama's, in a speech, as you know, in his initial speech, he talked about some of his white grandmother's feelings about race, and he brought it up again today in a radio interview, and let's listen to it.
The point I was making was not that my grandmother harbors any racial animosity. She doesn't. Right. But she is a typical white person who, you know, if she sees somebody on the street that she doesn't know, you know, there's a reaction that's been bred into our experiences that don't go away, and that sometimes come out in the wrong way. And that's just the nature of race in our society.
Now today,
hey,
Roland,
Campbell.
Yeah, go ahead, Lars.
Can you imagine what would happen if John McCain had responded to a comment by saying, typical black person? Can you imagine how fast the media would string him up?
Well, people are talking about this comment, Roland. What did he mean by that?
And Campbell, and what he talked about in the speech when he talked about stereotypes. And I can tell you, I have gotten on elevators, Campbell. It's interesting how even though I'm sitting here in a suit, I've actually seen people clutch their bag. This is why we have to have the conversations. Because, again, we have people who do harbor feelings, even if they have no reason whatsoever. I have African Americans, who I tell them on my radio show every day, how can you sit here and walk around with a stereotype when you haven't even asked anybody? You're believing an assumption. We have a nation full of stereotypes, and when we don't have dialogue, when we don't have conversation, guess what, Campbell? We walk around and think that. So why shouldn't we as talk show hosts be trying to educate our listeners and saying, why don't we get over our stereotypes? And so that's what we should be doing. It's a reality in America.
Okay, guys, hold it right there. Kevin, I'm going to bring you into this as well. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with a lot more ahead. Didn't do enough to distance himself from Reverend Wright. And Geraldine Ferraro, who was mentioned in Obama's speech and was very unhappy about it, said this, that to equate what I said and what this racist bigot has said from the pulpit is unbelievable. He gave a very good speech on race relations, but he did not address the fact that this man is up there spewing hatred. Are you hearing the same kind of thing in terms of reaction from your listeners?
Campbell, I am at KDK, and again, it's split along racial lines. You have people saying that, you know, never mind the broader context of racism that Obama brought out, I think his speech would have been a lot more credible if he had done it not in reaction to Reverend Wright, but as a proactive measure. Now it seems like he's just a regular politician trying to back up, and he's become the black candidate. Now he can't escape race. He's on a radio station in Philadelphia. We haven't heard from him at KDK. We'd love to have him on. The people of Pittsburgh would love to get to know Barack Obama because it's not just racial, it's also economic. He has to show that he can relate to the blue-collar workers if he wants to win Pennsylvania, if he wants to make it competitive. Clinton has the politicians sewn up, including Governor Rendell. Oh, Barack Obama needs to come here, bowl a few games, prove that he's one of us, and I think people would respond. Otherwise, Reverend Wright and those comments continue to brand him.
And Roland, I know you think that people are misinterpreting what he said and that they've heard it the wrong way, but you clearly have this problem. I mean, people do think he's become the candidate of race. So how does he get beyond that? What does he need to say now? How do you take this to the next step?
Well, I mean, obviously, in terms of, you could talk about Iraq, you could talk about any number of things, talk about the economy, but also the issue of class also comes in. I was watching another cable network where a host was saying that, well, the white blue-collar worker doesn't want to hear race coming from a black guy who went to Harvard and his wife, a black woman who went to Princeton. What's interesting, though, is the same black guy grew up in a single-family home where a mom had to go and get some food stamps to feed her family. The black woman lived in a two-bedroom home south side of Chicago, go to public schools. The reality is middle-class, blue-collar white workers and many in terms of middle-class, blue-collar African-Americans face the exact same thing. Both want their kids to go to top schools. Both want to have good education. Both want to be able to have health care, and that's how you link the two. The reality is you've always had two separate views, and there, frankly, is no different between those ethnic conclaves in Pennsylvania, between inner cities in Philadelphia, as well as across the country. That is, they have the exact same issues, but they see it differently in terms of who is getting what. That's how he should focus on, how to bring the classes together through economics and health care.
Lars, do you think that's possible?
Campbell, it's going to be really tough for him, and here's one of the reasons why it's going to be tough. Look at why he joined that church. Perhaps he joined the church because he actually believes the things that are said at Sunday services. If so, that's disturbing. But maybe he joined that church because he was attacked in some of his earlier political campaigns for being too Hyde Park, for being too Harvard. So he joined a church that was an inner city church that was a very strongly, if you will, black church that had these kinds of sermons to get his credentials to be
Campbell,
able to,
can we please
get
correct
the kinds
this
of votes he needed. If
Campbell,
that's,
this is incorrect
if that is the case, if that is the case, well, go ahead.
Okay, guys, you know what? I hate to do this to you, but we've got some breaking news, so I'm going to say thank you to the panel for now and get to this information.
Goddamn America.
A typical white person.
Goddamn America.
A typical white person.
Goddamn America.
What's going on in white America, U.S. of KKKA? Black men turning on black men. That is fighting the wrong enemy. Enemy.
Somebody who is like an uncle.
I can no more disown him than I can disown the black community.
God damn America! That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America!
Goddamn America.
And I would think about our own people. I would think about those who need help. That's what this campaign is about.
I won't wear that pin on my chest. Instead, I'm going to try to tell the American people what I believe will make this country great. And, hopefully that will be a testimony to my patriotism.
I think that we should call a summit with Muslim leaders from around the world to talk to them about their need to partner with us.
You want to discuss this with such eagerness. Let's listen to Senator John Kerry help out his friend Senator Barack Obama.
And I think in the end, he has an ability to help us bridge the divide of religious extremism, to maybe even give power to moderate Islam, to be able to stand up against this radical misinterpretation of a legitimate religion.